Foundation. Thank you to everyone for attending the Community Foundation's virtual meeting tonight. As always, we appreciate your patience if we have any technical hiccups. A couple of technical items before we get to the content of tonight's meeting. On March 17th, 2020, the Governor of California issued an executive order suspending certain provisions of the Brown Act in order to allow for local legislative bodies to conduct their meetings telephonically or by other electronic means. Pursuant to the CDC social distancing guidelines, which discourage large public gatherings, the Foundation Board is currently holding meetings virtually. Please know that we want to hear from you. If you are in the audience and you would like to address the board during public comment for items not on the agenda or on any of the agendized items, please use the raise your hand button at the bottom of the Zoom screen. Once you raise your hand, the executive director will see that someone wants to talk and she will let me know that you're waiting. When it is your turn to speak, the executive director will call your name, she will unmute you, and you will be given 3 minutes to address the board. If you are joining us by telephone, you may also address the board during public comment by pressing *9, and the executive director will address you and unmute you. You will also be given 3 minutes to address the board. Please note anyone in attendance may only speak once per agenda item. Leslie, did we receive any emails from the public related to any of the agenda items? Okay. So let's go on ahead and begin our meeting. Welcome, Supriya. We call to order. I now call the regular meeting of the San Bruno Community Foundation's Board of Directors of March 2nd, 2022 to order. I'll now turn the time over to Secretary to go on ahead and do roll call.
Thanks, Melissa. I'll start with Board Member Irving Torres.
Here.
Board Member Supriya Piri.
Here.
Board Member Melissa Moreno.
Here.
Treasurer Pac Lin.
Here.
Secretary Raul Gomez is here. Vice President Jim Ruane.
Here.
And last but not least, President Melissa Natani Jones.
Here.
All accounted for. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Gomez. Before I open for public comment, I would like to just take this moment to speak a moment about the Ukraine issue. And we are deeply shocked and saddened by the devastating human and economic toll brought by the war in Ukraine. As people are being hurt, injured, killed, and forced to flee, we hope that there can be immediate resolve and peace for the people of Ukraine and all of those who are being impacted. Okay. Would any members of the public like to address the board on a topic not on the agenda? Please indicate by using the raise your hand button at the bottom of the Zoom screen. Leslie?
We do have one. I'm going to be allowing owner to talk. I don't know who that is.
Okay.
This is Jim Evangelist. I live at 105 DeSoto Way, San Bruno. And I'd like to speak on a couple of issues here quickly and welcome new members of the board, by the way. Congratulations on your appointment. I'm getting very, very concerned about the direction that the foundation is going in. At the last council meeting, there was a lot of confusion as to who has ultimate control of the council, of the funds that is left in this quasi foundation. And I think that that needs to be cleared up because it looks like the city's going to need to access some of that. I don't think that this was this whole foundation was designed to be an endowment in perpetuity. So I really wish that the members of the board would clarify that. I think that also I'm a little concerned how the grants as they are going out are tending to be more diluted in its direct impact on San Bruno. They're going to more county-wide organizations, which makes it very difficult for anybody to track. I would like to see that start to be more San Bruno centric. I just feel like that this foundation is attempting in some way to become independent of the city council. And I'm very uncomfortable with it working independently with people that are unelected officials. So I really would like to have that made very clear in the future here. Also, I would like to address compensation to the director of the foundation, Leslie, who this is no reflection on her job performance or her abilities. But I believe that what's happening in her salary and the overhead overall for the foundation is completely out of balance with the amount of money dispensed from the foundation. And I think that this needs to be looked at very seriously by the new board members in particular, because I think that this is a scandal in the making. The compensation package is almost equivalent to a superintendent for elementary school districts or city manager's salaries for a small city. And I just don't see how that is justified in this case. Now, maybe I'm speaking out of turn, and I'd love to shadow Leslie if need be to find out exactly how this incredible salary and overhead cost is being justified by the board. The way, just the back of the envelope calculations I did, it looks to me like for every dollar donated from the foundation, almost 75 additional cents is devoted to overhead. I think that's extraordinary, and I hope you feel the same. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I didn't catch your name, but thank you for your comments.
My name is Jim Evangelist.
Thank you, Jim Evangelist. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Leslie, thank you. Okay. Are there any other individuals in the audience who wanted to speak during public comment?
I don't see any others.
Okay, thank you. We will now move on to item number 3, approval of the minutes. On February 2nd, 2022, a special board meeting, which was on February 2nd of 2022, regular board meeting, and February 22nd, 2022, special board meeting. Secretary Gomez?
So in your packet, you would have received the meeting minutes from our meeting of March 2nd and, excuse me, not March 2nd, but excuse me, 2nd. I do apologize for that. Excuse me, meeting minutes from our last meeting. And for that, I would like to call a motion to have our meeting minutes approved from our last meeting. Excuse
So
me.
moved.
Second.
So I'll get a roll call from our first board member, Irving Torres.
Aye.
Board member Supriya Perry. Board member Melissa Moreno.
Aye.
And treasurer Pat Lynn.
Aye.
Secretary Raul Gomez is aye. Vice President Jim Ruane.
Aye.
And President Melissa Natani Jones.
Aye. Raul, would you please ask Supriya just one more time? And Supriya, could you unmute?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Board member Supriya Perry.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. All accounted for.
Thank you, Secretary Gomez. I'm now going to move on to item number 4, which is consent calendar. So there are 6 items on the consent calendar today as listed in the agenda. With regard to item 6C, adopt resolution adjusting executive director's compensation. State law requires that all public agencies to orally announce the terms of executive compensation adjustments before voting on them. In recognition of her outstanding service to the foundation, Executive Director Leslie Hadamia will receive a one-time 5% additional employer contribution to her 403B retirement plan for 2021. Ms. Hadamia has not received any adjustments to her compensation since 2020, and there are no other changes to her compensation at this time. Unless there are any questions, I call for a motion to adopt the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Raul?
Through the chair, can
Yes.
I make a comment on one of the consent items? And that's consent number D. Just want to say I appreciate that opportunity for the virtual recordings. I think it will allow members of the San Bruno community to listen in if they can't attend our meetings. I think it's just a great way for our foundation to be more transparent and also engage our communities. And that's my only comments. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. So I believe that there was a motion and a second.
Yes.
Okay.
Sabria Perry moved.
Great, thank you. Raul?
Yes, so do a roll call. So Board Member Irving Torres,
Aye.
Board Member Supriya Perry,
Aye.
Board Member Melissa Moreno,
Aye.
Treasurer Pac Lin,
Aye.
Secretary Raul Gomez is an aye, Vice President Jim Ruang,
Aye.
and President Melissa Natani Jones.
Aye.
All our ayes. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Gomez.
President Natani Jones, we did skip the executive director's report. So that should have been before consent calendar. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I apologize. Can we go ahead and move to that item?
We can, and it is wonderful to see everyone this evening. This meeting is noteworthy in that it's been exactly 2 years since we met in person as a board, so that this current composition of the board has not met in person yet. And we look forward to that opportunity at some point in the future. It is amazing how much we've been able to accomplish the last 2 years, despite being in virtual format. And I thank the board for being as engaged as ever, despite the fact that we have not been able to meet in person, because I think that would add a lot more to the collegiality of the board. The packet included my written report, which I'm not going to go through all of it, but just wanted to cover a couple of highlights. First, the insurance policy renewals. The consent calendar, which you just adopted, included a resolution for our directors and officers liability insurance, as the current policy expires on March 21st. We always do bring this one before the board to actually approve. So that's why that one is in the consent calendar, because it is the coverage for you as the board. We also have our commercial general liability, property, cyber liability, and non-owned hired auto liability insurance policies with the Philadelphia insurance companies. Those are bundled together, as well as our workers' compensation insurance policy with AmTrust in North America. Those are also, both of those policies are up for renewal on March 21st as well. The workers' compensation premium is $1,175, which is a modest $21 increase from last year. And the premium for the CGL package is $1,227, which is the same as last year. I've renewed both of those policies under my contracting authority's executive director. And so those will take effect March 21st. Also, our program manager transition, as you know, Jessica Carrillo has started as our program manager, and she has taken over the Crestmore Scholarship administration of that program. She and Stephanie Reckers are busy dealing with the applications. Yesterday was the application deadline, so this is like one of the busiest times of the year, which is why neither of them is with us tonight, because they're focusing on that today. Stephanie has been training Jessica and will be phasing out in the next 2 weeks. And hopefully, and then Jessica will be taking over, and she'll be your main contacts when there are any issues to do with either the scholarship program or the community grants program. And finally, just ethics requirements. Thank you for those of you who have turned in your Form 700, your conflict of interest statements, and for those of you who need to do your AB 1234 training, thank you for doing those. For the few of you who still have to get those in, please do them by the deadlines. And that is my executive report, director's report for today, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Leslie. Are there any questions from the public? Leslie, do you see any?
No.
Okay. Any questions from the board? No? Okay, great. Sorry, do we vote on this or we can just
No.
move on? Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so we are now going to move on to item number 5, which is conduct of business. We're going to receive a report on the Tanfran Memorial Project from the Tanfran Assembly Center Memorial Committee. And as the chair of the ad hoc committee on Tanfran Memorial, I will introduce this item. As you recall, last June, the board approved a $150,000 grant to the Tanfran Assembly Center Memorial Committee to support the construction of the Tanfran Memorial at the San Bernardino Station. This memorial will honor the nearly 8,000 Japanese Americans who were interned at the Tanfran Assembly Center during World War II. We last received an update from the Memorial Committee in November, and the project has experienced a lot of forward progress since then. I'm pleased to welcome the TACMC President Doug Yamamoto and Project Manager David Fielder to give us an update on the project. Doug and David, the floor is yours.
Sorry. A lot has happened since the last time we met. A lot of good things, actually. Bart approved our construction permit late last year. February 7th, we began construction on the site in San Bruno. It's for those of you who haven't seen it, it's located in that back concrete area and leading towards the food court by Target. February 11th, we had a groundbreaking, which was quite successful. It was a lot bigger, and there was a lot more public interest than anybody in the committee had envisioned. It kind of exploded, and we thought it was going to be some kind of very low-key affair. But Block Construction and their PR firm got involved, and Bart also, and suddenly there was a lot of support, and it was very successful. So we thank Leslie and Jim Ruane for showing up to the groundbreaking. I'm sorry if I missed anybody else who was there. This is a picture of many of the committee members with the shovels. Anyway, that's Jackie Spear spoke. She's been one of our main supporters and was a keynote speaker, I think, 10 years ago when we had it, and has been a strong supporter of this project. Demolition has begun, as you can see. Currently, though, actually just yesterday, we found out there's been one of those issues that happens when you start constructing things. There there's a water supply line that goes through the center of the site. And because of its location, BART required that we move the supply line because it was too close to our proposed tree that we're going to plant. So we drew up plans, had it shown it move to the right, closer to the police station. But then in the past couple days, somebody at BART pointed out, oh, that supply line, water line, is actually a fire line. So it's connected to an underground hydrant near the BART station that's there for emergency use. And because we would be forced to move that line, now it'll involve the fire marshal San Bruno, and maybe a bunch of other inspections, because that supply line we're moving it's 6 feet underground. It's 12 inches, 12-inch pipe. It supplies the emergency water for not only BART, but the police station, the garages, and the mall. So it's not a, it's a fairly major thing, major move. So right now, demolition is paused pending our resolution of this situation. I'll talk more about that in the final budget presentation, but it's an issue we're working through right now. Block is trying to get us a quote for the actual construction, hopefully by tomorrow, the next day, so the committee can make some decisions. Anyway, that's the life of a construction project. So what this means is a projected delay in the completion date of the memorial. So tentatively, we look to finish first week of July, pending no other major situations. But just so you're getting the first update, I really haven't even had a chance to tell the rest of the committee this in detail. Sorry, that's a puppy. So if we can, Leslie, can you go to the next slide there? These lines designate our major key partners, financial contributions for the project over the past 7 years. And RHAA is, if you don't already know, is the landscape architect and is doing all this work pro bono in memory of their 3 Japanese American partners. So we're extremely fortunate to have their participation. So anyway, that's a picture of our support. And I think the last page breaks down our remaining budgetary needs into the first column would be just completing the memorial. And the second column is more towards the ribbon cutting, mailings, etc., insurance, and trying to raise a maintenance fund to cover graffiti damage, and also things like to maintain the finish of the statue. It's been recommended to us that we do a cleaning and waxing at least, once a year or 18 months or every 2 years. So that's one of the expenses. But the 2 main ones in the finishing the completion of the memorial are moving the fire line, number one, and providing an ADA walkway, ADA approved walkway from the police station to the memorial, even though currently there's no way to get from the BART station up to the memorial that's ADA compliant. We've made our memorial ADA compliant, but BART is saying that we need to provide a ADA compliant pathway from the station to the memorial, even though it does not exist now. So we had some engineers out there, and the least expensive way for us to do that would be to demo and rebuild a portion of the concrete from the police station over to the foot of the memorial on the lower right hand side. So that's an additional 40,000. Both those 40,000 figures are rough estimates. So anyway, that's where we are, and that's where we are. And David, feel free to add to that.
Let's see. I don't really have anything to add except that to point out that those two items were an unpleasant surprise, but it's the sort of thing that comes up when you're going into demolition of an area that good drawings don't exist for. So here we are. I think I feel optimistic that we'll be able to manage this. We obviously need to continue fundraising. We're all involved in that. And look forward to any help, advice, referrals that you folks can give. Thanks.
I'm open for any questions if there aren't any.
Thank you, Doug, and thank you, David. Any questions from the board?
If I may, no real questions, but I just want to compliment you on the wonderful groundbreaking. It was great, and I believe Pac was there with us too. So it was really, inspiring. So you'll get through this. This is small potatoes in the bigger picture. We'll make it happen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Irving?
Thank you, Melissa. Yeah, I just want to say, this was a great presentation. I first heard about this idea a couple of years ago, and to just see it now at this phase is pretty incredible. So I just appreciate the work of the committee. And then I see on the website, it says how to help. So is that like also a function where folks can donate as well? Or what are like other, because you mentioned that you'll be needing to fundraise. So I'm just curious, like if you are also opening it up for like individual contributions as well.
Yes. The how to help button on our website is individuals can make donations through PayPal or the credit card. So we're still soliciting individual donations and trying to get over the threshold there of all the costs to build a memorial. One thing I'd like to mention is that for the ribbon cutting ceremony, one of the things that I would personally wanted to see was to see whether Hiroko Mochida, who's still alive, she's a little girl on the left. She's a 3-year-old with the tag around. In the family picture, she's standing in front of her father. She is still alive, living in Oregon, and I recently asked her whether she would be willing to come down for the grand opening ceremony, and that the committee would pay her way, you know, transportation, hotel, whatever, to come down and be part of that ceremony. So she has agreed to come down. So that's, well, along with Hiroko, who's in her 80s now, Steve Okamoto, Ben Takeshita, Richard Sekiguchi, members of the committee who were at Tanforan, they'll all take part in the unveiling of the statue. So that, I think that'll be a pretty memorable moment when that happens. So that's one of the things we're really looking forward to at the ribbon cutting. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the public? No, okay. Okay, again, thank you, Doug and David, for the update. We appreciate you, and just happy that we have begun the project. And I'm sure you all are excited as well. So thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for the report.
And absolutely, thank you and the board and Leslie for all your help up to this point. And we're getting there, and it's going to be a great project for San Bruno. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will now shift and move to item B, to receive report on other programs, including community grants, Crestmore Neighborhood Memorial Scholarship, and other strategic grants. I'll turn the time over to you, Leslie.
Thank you. Let me just getting David and Doug off screen. Let me shift here. And share a different set of slides. So I am going to speak tonight about, just to give you a brief update on our other projects that are going on right now. As I mentioned before, the Crestmore Scholarship application deadline was yesterday. And we had the usual crush of applications that all come in literally in the last 2 days. It is amazing how quickly someone can sign up for this scholarship and fill out their application on the final day within the last hour. We were getting calls and emails coming in literally up until the 5 o'clock deadline. Just as a reminder, the scholarship this cycle launched in December when we began distributing materials throughout the community. We especially reached out to the high schools in the area, as well as Skyline and the other community colleges in San Mateo County. We also distributed posters and flyers at businesses and other community meeting spaces around town. Because of COVID, you know, that wasn't as useful this year as it was in past years. So we did rely on email and social media as well to get the word out. We also offered mainly virtual workshops at Cappuccino High School and Skyline College. They were open actually to anybody. We did one in-person workshop at Cappuccino to tell students about the scholarship and to walk them through the application process. We are still in the process of going through all the applications that came in, just to make sure that they are complete and that everyone is actually eligible. The number of students who registered, so the way the process works is you register and then you fill out the application. We always get a lot more registrations than we do actual submissions. It's sort of very typical that there is some drop off. The number of students who registered this year was a little lower than the last couple of years, but was still fairly substantial. It looks like the final number of applications submitted is just a few less than the total last year, 53, 54 versus 58 last year. So pretty close. The key difference is that the actual distribution among the 3 different categories we have shifted a little. The number of applicants in the high school, the 4-year pool, which is always our biggest pool and most competitive pool, that was about the same as it's been, and sort of it's always stayed in the same range. But the number of high school to community college applicants, which has always been a category that we've struggled to get a lot of applicants in, that this was actually our highest number of applications in that category this year. So we were happy with that. But at the same time, we saw a little bit of dip in the community college to 4-year pool. Those numbers were a little lower this year. We did see a lower attendance at our workshops that we're in for the community college students. We did the exact same outreach that we've done in past years. It seems that, you know, because Skyline and the other community colleges did a lot virtually in the fall, that it was just harder to get the student engagement. So we'll be looking at that, trying to figure out why the number was a little lower this year, and work on that for next year. We did get a lot of feedback that there's just a lot of COVID fatigue right now, and, you know, trying to get them to come to virtual workshops is tough. People are just tired of going to Zoom programs. And so we think that we're hoping that that was a little bit of what played into it, and that next year, which we hope will be a much more normal school year, we'll see the numbers go back up again. But overall, we actually still have a very robust applicant pool, so don't be worried. We will have great winners that get selected in the end. I am confident of that. We have assembled a selection panel of 17 volunteers to review, rate, and select these scholarship recipients, and they are ready to go to work as soon as we can get all of the application packets ready. As you will recall, the process is as follows. After the applications arrive, staff checks them for completeness and eligibility and follows up with any loose ends. The complete applications are then passed along to the selection panel for review and rating. The panel will then meet to discuss the applicants and select the winners. Like we did for the Community Grants Fund, President Natana Jones will provide a DEI training for the selection panel prior to the review of the applications. They will also go through a introductory training when they get their applications as well. The winners will be notified in April, and they will join us at our June 2nd board meeting. At least for the scholarship presentation, we will see if in June conditions are different, and we're actually meeting in person at that time. And with donations from the Joseph W. Welch Jr. Foundation and Mary Lou and Ellen Johnson, for which we are very appreciative, we plan to distribute scholarships totaling $190,000 again this year. So that is where we are with the community customer scholarship. With regard to the Community Grants Fund, in my written report, I included updates about various community grants from prior years where we have granted some COVID-related requests for extensions. And in the interest of time, I won't repeat them all, but please let me know if you have any questions about specific ones. For the current grant cycle that we just awarded 23 grants in December, all of the grant agreements have been executed. The last one we finally got accomplished earlier this week, and nearly all of the grant checks have been delivered. I want to thank all of you board members. All of you have participated in our check presentations over the last 2 months. Here's a couple pictures of those of you doing them virtually. The grantees have expressed their deep appreciation for your willingness to come meet with them to actually present the grant checks. It's been a great way for us to connect with our grantees, and they do appreciate having this personal attention. They say almost pretty much none of their other granting organizations do this, and they really do think that it shows our commitment to them and making sure that we have a good partnership with them. For the upcoming grant cycle, it will follow the same schedule as past years. We usually launch in early July. We do workshops over the summer. The application is open. There will be a late September deadline. The review process by that panel will be in October and November, and then the board will consider the approval of the final list of grants at the December meeting. At this point, we don't anticipate making any significant changes to that program this year. In terms of the Recreation and Aquatic Center, we will receive our quarterly update from the city at our April meeting. It was supposed to be this meeting, but they asked to move it to April. And in the meantime, I just wanted to give you an update on where we are on our grant payments. As you know, we've committed the full 50 million at this point. As of the end of February, we had made grant payments of 14.7 million. Actually, is that right? 14.7 million, that's right. And that leaves a balance of about 35.3 million yet to pay over the next year and a half. Most of the grants are being paid on a quarterly basis after we receive a report from the city on their expenses. So this last set of payments that we made out in January and February was a little over 4 million. So just wanted to show you this slide to really give you a sense of, we're really starting to pay out these grants now. Got another 35 million to pay out over the next 18 months. And so you will see our investment balances going down. We've held them pretty high for a while because we've been making money as we've been spending money. So they've stayed at the sort of the high 70 millions. It is coming down now, as you'll hear in our investment committee report, because we are paying out our grant commitments on the RAC. And so don't be shocked when you see our investment portfolio balances go down, because we've made this commitment. We knew this was going to happen. We will be getting our next set of quarterly reports from the city in April and making out the next set of payments in April and May. And just as a reminder, on the city website, there is an earth camp. You can always check on the status of the construction site live. This is from yesterday, I guess. And you can see, like, on the right side of the picture, like, the pool is gone. There's no hole even left anymore. They have filled that in. You can see that the trees have been cleared, the retaining walls up. So progress is being made on the site. And so feel free to visit that website anytime, even if you can't make it over to the park. And the last program I wanted to give you an update on was the SBCF program. That's the Small Business Recovery and Assistance Program. We gave 2 grants to the Bay Area Entrepreneur Center of Skyline College for this program. The most recent was a $157,000 grant that we made last year, and that grant has been completed, and we just received the formal grant report. We did, as you recall, receive an oral report from Dean Michael Kane on this project back in September. Let's see. Of note, this grant, the second grant, benefited 31 San Bruno small businesses that had been struggling to deal with the pandemic impacts, and they all received micro grants, so direct funding. There were a range of issues that the businesses faced that were addressed by the micro grants, everything from the need for short-term operating capital to improve marketing and web presence to transitioning to virtual operations and online ordering processes. The training and one-to-one coaching provided by the BAEC to the businesses had a significant impact, they told us. Many of the businesses had little to no web presence pre-pandemic, and few had any mechanisms for doing online ordering or virtual business operations. So through both the trainings and the micro grants, we were able to really help these businesses get through the worst of the pandemic and sort of transition their businesses. As you know, former BACC director Saida Stroud departed over the summer, and the center is in the process of hiring a new director, sort of in a transition period, and will be seeking to redefine and clarify the center's mission over the coming months. That is my report of our other programs tonight.
Thank you so much, Leslie. Are there any questions, comments from the board? Leslie, would you let me know if any comments from the public? Any hands?
I do not see any.
Okay. So thank you. That was a report. And now we can move on to item C, to receive report from Ad Hoc Committee on Education Initiatives. Secretary Gomez is the chair, I believe. Yes. And we'll introduce the report. So I'll turn the time over to you, Ro. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. And thank you for the opportunity to provide an update from the Ad Hoc Committee on Education Initiatives. I will be making the report on behalf of my colleagues on the committee, Pat Lynn and Supriya Perry, which again, it's really just so nice to work with you guys for the first time and looking forward to our continued work on this foundation. So in the aftermath of the Strategic Plan 2.0, the board created the committee in January 22 to investigate ways in which the foundation can support San Bruno's K-12 public schools. Since January, the committee has met twice to discuss the possible initiatives supporting San Bruno's public schools. In addition, Executive Director Hadamaya and I met with San Bruno Park School District Interim Superintendent Michael Milliken, and Leslie also met with Cappuccino High School Principal Jesse Boyce to discuss needs at the schools. Out of those discussions, one possible grant-making opportunity has surfaced that the committee would like to bring to the board's attention for feedback tonight. A second extension to the Music Education Strategic Initiative. To provide context, in both San Bruno Community Foundation's community listening campaigns, the community has identified assistance to the San Bruno Public Schools as a top need, and the foundation has responded by making education as one of its strategic grant-making priorities. Over the years, the foundation has funded a number of grants supporting the school's strategic initiatives like the Music Education Strategic Initiative, the San Bruno Park School District School Transformation Grant, and the Teacher's Laptop COVID-19 Relief Grant, as well as a wide variety of community grants. The foundation would like to continue to find avenues for support for the schools, but the San Bruno Park School District is going through another leadership transition, fortunately. The committee has specifically been looking for education-related grant-making opportunities that do not necessarily rely on the vision of a specific superintendent. Which brings me to the Music Initiative, Strategic Initiative, that is. A partnership between San Bruno Community Foundation and the San Bruno Education Foundation and the San Bruno Park School District, Cappuccino High School, and the Cappuccino High School Alumni Association. The Music Education Strategic Initiative was created with the goal of making music education a hallmark of San Bruno's public schools. The original grant was for $495,000 to be spent over the 2017 and 2020 time period. And then the initiative was extended to an additional year with $6,800,000 in funding. Dr. Milliken has expressed interest in possibly continuing the initiative for 2 additional academic years to revitalize the music program at Parkside Intermediate School. The new Parkside principal has proposed offering music to all 6th graders, which would require finding funding for an additional music teacher. The district seeks seed funding for the position for the 22-23 and 23-24 school years, which would give the district time to adjust to its staffing structure to the ability to fully fund the 6th grade music teacher position. Historically, the music programs at Parkside and Cappuccino had been a point of community pride. The San Bruno Park School District has suffered tremendously through the pandemic, with its program primarily remote during 2020 and 21. In the current school year 21-22, staffing challenges and the Omicron surge have continued to impact the district's instructional program and the music program in particular. The 4th and 5th grade music program continues to be taught remotely by the vendor music for minors. Coupled with the 2020-21 remote program, where very little music was taught in these grades, the district's rising 5th and 6th students have been deprived of quality music instruction over the past 2 years. The district now seeks to jumpstart Parkside's music program to help remedy COVID's impact on music instruction. The district proposes to hire an additional dedicated music teacher at Parkside to offer high-quality music instruction to every 6th grade student at the school. All 6th graders would be required to make or to take a music class for the year, such as instrumental music, chorus, vocal music, and/or music exploration. Currently, Parkside only has one music teacher across 6th, 7th, and 8th, and that teacher is trying to teach a full range of beginning and advanced classes. By hiring an additional music teacher who would focus on 6th grade programs, this grant would both strengthen Parkside's introductory music program and take the pressure off the current teacher, allowing him to focus on intermediate and advanced music courses. The budget for the proposed program to cover the new teacher's compensation package would total $226,000 over 2 years. Excuse me. Theoretically, the district could hire this teacher from its general fund, but economic pressure require it to use all of its existing teachers before hiring additional ones. If it can get by with its existing staff and existing elected offerings, then for efficiency purposes, it must stay with that more basic, elective model. The district is the bottom quartile of the San Mateo County Public Schools districts for teachers' compensation. And if it hires more teachers than it obviously needs, that would continue to suppress teacher compensation. An infusion of capital from San Bruno Community Foundation would boost the middle school program in ways that the district would not be able to do on its own. The district also contends that with more robust music staff program and a set of elective offerings for the next 2 years, this grant would allow the district time to shift its staffing so that the district could fund the second music teacher itself beginning in the 24-25 school year. The district would also welcome additional funding for related program expenses, including purchasing additional instruments and sheet music for 6th grade music courses. The district does have access to some other sources of funding for these related program expenses, and the cost of the teacher is the critical expense it needs to help covering. Because the music and education initiative has been a K-12 effort, Leslie spoke with Cappuccino High School Principal Jesse Boyce to inquire about music program needs at the high school, Cappuccino. He noted that the music program's greatest need is covering transportation and other costs related to out-of-town performances, and competitions at the program would also like to be obtain a 5-octave concert maraba, if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, sorry, an instrument that costs upwards to $12,000. Excuse me, but ultimately said that investment for Cappuccino is an investment that in the San Bruno Park School District Elementary and Middle School school music programs. A thriving music program at Parkside is what feeds students into Cappuccino's music program, and that is a significant issue for Cap right now. This past fall, very few 9th graders enrolled in music, a direct result of the decreased enrollment of the Parkside music program during the pandemic. The Cappuccino administration is concerned that this trend of declining interest in high school band will continue without a boost in the Parkside music program. At the same time, the committee values the Cappuccino music program, and the board were supportive of funding of the Parkside proposal. The committee would also like to ask the board to consider providing a modest amount, perhaps in the amount of $10,000 per year in that range, to fund transportation and instrument expenses at Cappuccino music program. But before I close, I'd like to mention that the committee is exploring other possible educational related areas for investment, such as an underwriting the outdoor education program for San Bruno Park School District 5th graders, creating a teacher's grant program, and creating a field transportation fund for San Bruno Public Schools. These ideas are still in the preliminary stages of development, and the committee may bring them to the full board for discussion at a future date. Now we would like to hear your comments for the music ed extension idea, and we would welcome your feedback and hope that if the board is in support of this idea, we would incorporate your feedback into a final proposal to bring it to the board for consideration for our next meeting in April. If the district is to implement the 6th grade music program beginning in the fall, it needs to begin the hiring process for a new music teacher this spring. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Secretary Gomez, for the report. The floor is open. Board members, any questions or comments?
Yeah, through the chair, first of all, to the subcommittee. Wow, what a great job. You guys have really been busy. And this is just exactly what we're all about. We kicked it off a number of years ago with the 4-year program, and with COVID hitting everybody, the kids have had so much that they have missed. And music is just kind of a universal language that speaks to everybody. So if there's any way we can do what you propose, I'm all for it. I think this is just great. So thank you again for all your work.
Thank you, Jim. Melissa?
Thank you. So I guess moving forward, if we funded this, what is the district's commitment to sustaining that position? I mean, so I'm not sure if there was a clear commitment to sustain the position after our additional funding ran dry.
I could jump in. I mean, they're the ones actually who have requested the seed funding with the idea that they need our help to get the position started and the program started, and that the 2 years would allow them to rejigger their staffing so that in 2 years they would be able to fund the position going forward.
Thanks.
Any other comments from the board? Yes, please, Irving.
Thank you. I just had a clarification. I was looking at like the roster, the list of who's on that committee. I was just wondering why some schools aren't like represented, like Bel Air. So if you could just, if there's anybody from the board that could provide some context, is it because Bel Air doesn't have a music program? Yeah, that's my question.
I guess I can jump in. So Parkside is the middle school, right, that serves all of San Bruno. So that's the program that actually provides instrumental and choral music instruction and feeds into the high school program. So that's really where kids can, right now can take music as an elective. And so the idea is really to bolster the program at that level at middle school. At the elementary school, and Bel Air is one of the 5 elementary schools, the district contracts with an outside vendor called Music for Minors, which actually we have helped fund in past years. And that program is more singing and rhythm, that kind of, for younger ages. And that's been the predominant program for all of the elementary schools. So this one is just focusing on the middle school component. That's where the district has identified a particular need. There is some instrumental instruction sort of as an after school activity at the elementary school levels, only for the kids who express interest in that.
Thank you. Supriya?
Yeah, and I just wanted to note that as committee chair Gomez mentioned, the subcommittee is also looking at other initiatives with an eye toward doing our best to benefit as many San Bruno students as possible. So to make sure that we touch upon the range of students within the district.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I just want to clarify that we did mention, or we are kicking around the idea again, funding outdoor ed, not for this school year, but for upcoming school years. But again, we haven't fleshed out all the ideas on that. But again, that would impact, to Irving's point, primarily the Bel Air and Allen kids.
Thank you. I'm just going to say something really quickly on this topic. As someone who works in nonprofit and is working in the schools, I really do want us to really consider supporting an initiative like this while schools are extremely challenged at this point with returning back to in-person, all of the restrictions. We've seen an increase of young people who are engaging in fights regularly. There's been an increase in disrespect among students and staff. And so just as much as we can to support programs that could prevent any of those things, but really encourage and empower young people. I just love the idea. And so I just want to acknowledge and thank our committee for looking into that and exploring what can work for our youth and your young people in San Bruno. It's just it's not the most ideal time for anyone in education. So I just acknowledge that there is a great need and hope that we can come to some decisions around how we can support the school music programs at Parkside and others. So thank you.
So through the chair, I just want to say I absolutely agree. Again, everyone on this board, I'm sure knows that, the kids of San Bruno definitely have my heart, and I definitely want to support them as much as we possibly can. And if we don't have any more questions, I do just want to personally thank Leslie, Supriya, and PAC for all of their hard work. We did meet many times and have flex our schedule to, again, make sure that, again, we are putting a lot of thought and effort into these programs and just making sure, again, we are serving the kids of San Bruno. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you. I see there is a comment from the public. So I see that there is a hand. Leslie, would you please bring this person over?
Yeah, I'm going to allow Brian Vanderlook to talk.
Thank you. Welcome, Brian.
Hi, good evening. This is Brian Vanderlook. Good evening, President Tony Jones and board. I'm with the San Bruno Education Foundation. So I've interacted with several of you, but I have not yet had the chance to meet some of you. So again, thank you for all you do, and especially for the schools that we all love. I love to see that you're considering some new initiatives. First, I just wanted to offer some enthusiastic support for your consideration of funding the staff position at Parkside. As you know, we're very much in rebuilding mode there, and I think there's some great ideas they've got. So I'm glad to have that as part of your thought process. Also, obviously the SBF has been gearing up for a few years of the Music Education Strategic Initiative to sort of take the reins, but I think we'd be very excited to talk about extending that partnership and seeing what we can do together. And it's not lost on me that if you guys decide to take over some of that funding, that allows us then to redirect some of the added funding capacity we built over the years to other initiatives. So I think it's all fantastic. Just one word of caution, we considered something like they're considering at Parkside a few years ago and ended up tabling it because of the California legislation that requires schools that have mandatory music programs to provide instruments for all the students. And currently Parkside doesn't have that. I'm not sure they've thought about that, but there would be a significant capital expense up front to get more instruments. So just think about that. Secondly, hope you'll indulge me for just a minute to share some experiences I've gained over the years at the strategic initiative. But first, I want to share that while it's clear our music programs have taken a big hit and COVID and really just kind of made things pretty dismal and can be discouraging, but I think there's a lot of positive things to note about the strategic initiative. Most importantly, in our work over the years, we've been able to pull together a much stronger community network and taking steps to bring together our kind of disparate school sites and parent-teacher orgs, our community and funding partners, and into what I see now as a much more unified network, kind of all pulling in the same direction. And I sincerely believe we're in a fundamentally different place now than we were 5 years ago and have a strong foundation on which to build. So I do want to call out that there are some very strong things that have come out of that initiative that should be appreciated. And secondly, what I see in my on the ground work with the district administration is that the interim superintendent Milliken is really building a strong cabinet and attempts to leave behind a leadership team as part of his legacy. I've never seen a stronger group of people working in the district office, and I just want to raise that to your board's attention so you know that I really think good things are just around the corner, and there are a lot of good pieces in place. Also, as was noted, we have a new permanent principal at Parkside who I think is going to be a long timer. She's not new to Parkside, but new to the principal position. So I think there's a real opportunity there. One thing I want to comment on is with the music education strategic initiative, one of the things I really appreciated about that I think was critical to some of the things we've been able to do was the amount of work that went up front in bringing together all the stakeholders to fully understand the need, potential solutions, and get buy-in early on that allowed us to implement. And over the years, I've kind of grown to appreciate the support system for our schools as an ecosystem. It's a word I use sometimes. It's a word I've kind of grown to understand. But I see all the intersecting pieces, each having unique roles in the community. And when I think about the Community Foundation, at least what I think of, and maybe not everyone agrees, but I see a unique role in the ability to make transformational change. And so I would just encourage you as you think about what to do with the schools to think big, think transformationally, but also, as was said in Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. So, with that, I think comes a bit of an obligation to do the work, to bring stakeholders together, fully understand the issues and where kind of the Community Foundation is uniquely positioned to make that kind of transformational change. As sort of a piece of information, there's about, let's say, $600,000 in external funding that comes into our schools. So when you talk about $100,000 initiative, you're talking about a pretty substantial shift in the system. And so I would just encourage you not to think of things experimentally. If you put $100,000 in and then pull it out 2 years later, that would be a dramatic shock to the system. And so really be thinking long-term, thinking sustainably, which of course we've done in other ways. As an example, the issue was raised around outdoor ed. If you were to take over outdoor ed funding, and this is something that's been discussed amongst parent-teacher orgs, with parent-teacher org turnover in 2 years, there won't be anyone left on the board that was there when these fundraising machinery was operating. I strongly suspect that machinery will not be able to be resurrected in 2 years. So consider that as a potential sort of what are unintended consequences of our well-intentioned initiatives. And so, I don't want to leave on a dark note, but just sort of, encourage you to continue thoughtful discernment. And we remain very grateful in your partnership and look forward to doing great things together. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comment. Any other comments from the public? Nope. Okay. Thank you so much. And again, thank you, Secretary Gomez, for the report as well as your committee. We're going to go ahead and shift gears again, and we are going to move to item number D, which is to receive report from the investment committee. And so the chair is Treasurer Lynn, and we are going to go ahead and turn the time over to her.
Thank you, President, sorry, Natani Jones, and good evening to everyone and the public. I am the chair. This was my first time on February 16 to be the committee chair for the investment committee. We met along with Supriya Perry as the other board representative on the committee. We got our quarterly update from Sandhill Global Advisor on our investment portfolio and also what the overall outlook of the investment. As of December 31st, our three investment portfolio total to $75 million, which is a really good number. But as Leslie had mentioned earlier, we have transferred $4 million into our cash so that we can pay the RAC. But the other important thing that Sandhill had mentioned was about our economic condition or the market condition. And given how things have occurred in the last few months, I do want to take a few moments just to talk about it, to just shed some light. First and foremost, as you know, since January, there's been a huge inflation. And we hear this a lot even before the discussion of the Ukraine war. So to address that, the Fed is already considering and was considering increasing the Federal Reserve several times, a few times this year, just to stifle the inflation. On top of that, we know that with the Ukraine war, that obviously is also adding additional uncertainty into the market. What does that really mean for us? One thing we want to walk away knowing is that our investment policy is not meant to look at only today. It's not meant to look at even the next month. Our strategic plan, which is largely for the RAC, is meant for a 7 to 10 year outlook. So when the market is fluctuating, it's best to think from a long-term point of view instead of currently. We may see a dip right now. We may see things maybe even look like it's going up in the last couple of days. Don't worry about it. It's just a natural up and down. We need to look in the further distance. Same thing with the quasi endowment. That is meant for really a 20-year look. So again, it's the same thing that while the quasi endowment portfolio invests more in stock, again, because we're looking at a long term of about 20 years, it's not going overall as the market as a whole is going to grow. So we could kind of allow ourselves to go through the ride. So that's really the key point I wanted to mention about our portfolio, that while there are uncertainty, Sandhill is great. They are already starting to look at ways to stabilize our portfolio, but at the same time, we as a board should consider it from a long-term point of view and allow ourselves to go through the ride and see how the long term will look. With that said, it has only been 2 months since the last investment committee information was provided. The portfolio as it was in the package is as of December 31st. Today, our balance today for the 3 portfolio is $68 million. So that's about an $8 million reduction. That $8 million, again, $4 million of it is intended because we have to pay RAC. And then the $4 million, what looks like loss, it's just the fluctuation in the portfolio. So hopefully, things will recover and we will see that gradually go back up. The second important thing that we talked about that day was about the whether we want to transfer more funding from our strategic into our liquidity pool, and then whether to transfer more into our cash. Really, it's just because we had originally intended to transfer, if I have the information, I think I lost it in front of me. We had, I think, budgeted for maybe 15 million to transfer. And do we need it right now? And that was a question of, do we want to hedge our timing with the market or not? And one of the recommendations from Leslie, looking at how much we currently have our liquidity pool, and our liquidity pool it's like a higher earning savings account than our regular bank account. So that savings account we can draw down when we need to. And at this point, we have enough both in our cash and in our liquidity pool to pay San Bruno as needed with the upcoming grants. And so we have time, and that is a good way for us to allow the market to reassess. And so hopefully by May, and this is, we followed and agreed as a committee, agreed with Leslie to wait until our May investment committee meeting to look at it again and see whether construction really started and we need to make payments, and also the market, whether it's a good time to ask Sandhill to move some of the money over. that really is it in regards to those two items, the portfolio discussion, as well as whether we want, like, our cash flow, whether we want to move some money. So with that, that is my report, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Treasurer Lynn. Any questions or comments from the board? No? Okay. Any questions from the public on this item? Okay. Well, thank you very much for the report. Again, thank you to the committee for all the work that you're doing. And I think that there's some exciting things that are coming up for us to really look into. So thank you for doing that. I will go ahead and move into item number 6, board member comments. Anyone from the board would like to make a comment at this time? Okay. I just want to say that I'm so happy that the board was able to come together to really be able to honor the work that Leslie has done for us as executive director. A lot of people don't get to see the behind the scenes work that it takes to be able to run a nonprofit foundation. And coming from the nonprofit, it's not an easy task. So I just want to appreciate publicly Leslie for all of her hard work, diligence, and being mindful of all of the needs of the board as well as our community. And just want to again thank the board for all agreeing to the increase. I think it's so important that we acknowledge the hard work and dedication that it takes to run a foundation. So I just wanted to be able to say that. Okay. Well, if there are no other comments, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I make the motion to adjourn.
I will
Second.
second.
Great. Okay, well, that is, so all those in favor to go ahead and adjourn our meeting?
Aye.
Thumbs up,
Aye.
works.
Aye.
Aye. Nobody
Aye.
wants to stay? Just kidding. Okay, great.
Okay, see you guys.
Adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good
Take
evening.
care,
Thank you.
everyone. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good
Thank
night.
you to our community members who are also here tonight. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.